Dispatch is an episodic superhero workplace comedy game where the player's choices affect the outcomes of the story. It's very similar to Telltale games like The Walking Dead and Batman, a Telltale series, which, given the background of the developer, Ad Hoc Studio, a studio founded by former Telltale game developers, it's no surprise that the studio's projects share a lot of similarities. But is this game actually any good, or is it just another generic you choose the story game? To understand this question, we need to break down what makes story-driven decision-based games good in the first place. And what better way to do that than to look at one of the most famous decision-based games, Until Dawn, which also happens to be one of my favorites. Until Dawn is undoubtedly one of the best games in the genre. The game follows 8 young adults who go to a remote lodge after a tragic incident involving the disappearance of 2 sisters. The player controls all 8 characters with the goal of surviving the night as they're hunted by a psychotic killer and a mythical beast of ancient stories. This is a unique approach as the player gets to play as each character and make decisions as that character. This differs greatly from Dispatch as so far in episodes 1 and 2, and I think for episodes going forward, the player only makes decisions around the life of Robert Robertson, the main protagonist of the story. But this difference doesn't make one inherently better than the other, it just seems like they're going for a different approach. Until Dawn's goal is to attach the player to each character, making them feel connected to all of them, as the ultimate goal of the game is for the player to make the decisions that lead each character to survive the night. The game needs the player to be invested in every character so they feel like they have something to lose if they make a mistake that ultimately kills one off. On the other hand, Dispatch is much more focused on getting the player to connect with Robert rather than every character involved in the story. And I'd say Dispatch does this rather well. Robert is introduced to the player immediately along with a little bit of his backstory as well as his ultimate goal, to hunt down the man who killed his father. This introduction follows what many consider to be the fundamentals for making an audience care about a character. Within the first 5 minutes, Robert is introduced with the goal of tracking down who killed his father, and in the next 20 minutes we learn that Robert has no superpowers, and he lost the suit which allows him to fight crime. This introduces a weakness to his character. This connects the player and Robert as they want to root for him and see that he too is not perfect due to his lack of powers. These two aspects in combination are regarded by authors and screenwriters like John Turby, who worked on hundreds of film scripts, as the basis of character connection.
It's interesting that what makes an audience care about a character really comes down to only 2 things. The weakness, the fundamental weakness of that character, and the character's goal in the story.
So Dispatch is off to a strong start. In addition to making you care about the main character, Dispatch's writing overall is pretty strong too. I find that the comedy lands well for the most part.
You gonna eat those Twinks?
That's not what they're... You know what? Help yourself.
And there is a certain charm to the game that is only further complemented by its gorgeous comic-like art style that gives it a really unique and distinct feeling. However, putting comedy aside and style, getting back to the core of the game, we need to take a look at another vital aspect of decision-based games, and that is, do the decisions themselves feel like they matter? For example, no matter what you pick here, this happens.
Fuck you!
And there are a lot of decisions like this throughout the game. Going back to Until Dawn, each decision feels like it carries a lot of weight because it does, especially as the player gets deeper into the story. A single mistake could cause the player to make a decision that results in the permanent death of one of the characters. It's obvious that these decisions have real impact on the story, and they really feel like they can change the outcome of the narrative. This is where my first complaints with Dispatch come in. In the first part of the story, Robert is interrogating a henchman of the man who killed his father. The player is presented with the option to drop the henchman over the ledge or pull him back onto the balcony after you learn the information you need to. You presume that dropping him would lead to his death, however, it doesn't matter if you drop him off the balcony because he lands on a mattress and survives. I understand that this is a narrative decision, as it's likely this character can't die yet because they still have a role to play, but for some people this came off as a little misleading, as the game heavily implies that you're about to kill him, and then it leads to the same exact outcome of him being alive, even if you just pulled him back to the balcony. Misleading dialogue options like this are almost always a plague in decision-based games, and one of my favorite examples is in The Walking Dead, where after you get into an argument with someone over a broken glass, you can pick tell him off, which ultimately makes you out his wife, who said she was thinking about leaving them.
Time for you to open your eyes. Kate's gonna leave your ass. What? She told me so.
Honey! You said that?
Jesus fucking Christ, no!
Which is just so unrelated and ultimately does more damage to your relationship with her than with the husband. But getting back to Dispatch, if you drop him off the balcony, then text does appear at the top saying he will remember that, so it's possible that this choice will come back around later in the story, but as of right now, it doesn't really seem to have an impact. I think Dispatch so far does a good job of making your decisions feel impactful, although as of the time of writing this, only the first 4 episodes are out, so it's hard to tell just how much of an impact each decision will really have. When comparing certain dialogue options, like before with the henchman example, we don't really get to see exactly how much that decision plays out, since we just simply don't know where the story is headed yet. It's the same with one of the other big decisions in the story. This decision happens at the end of episode 2, and it's whether or not you accept Phenomaman's invitation to dinner. If you accept the invitation despite Blonde Blazer warning you not to, then she mouths, "What the fuck?" And if you decline, she just simply mouths, "Thank you." Initially, I thought that accepting his invitation would mean that your relationship with Blonde Blazer would be harmed and could close her off as a romance option, but even if you accept the invitation, by episode 3 it doesn't really have any consequences, and she's still a romance option despite you pissing her off. My biggest hope is that eventually the story will split off and really make your decisions matter rather than just following a plotline with minor changes that call back to previous decisions you've made. The developers have said that the decisions you make in the story will heavily impact the outcome of it, but they've also stated that there are only 2 main endings of the game, but there could also be some different sub-endings depending on the player decisions. So at the moment, it is hard to say if Ad Hoc will be able to pull it off. I am pretty optimistic about it just because of how great the first 4 episodes were. I also think that it's so easy for games with this decision-based gameplay to fall short of expectations, but like I said, if episodes 4 through 8 are anywhere as good as 1 through 4, and they really start to dive further into the greater plot of the story, then I think they can make the players' decisions really feel impactful and relevant to the story, like they're actually playing a game and interacting with it rather than just watching a movie. I still absolutely think that Dispatch is worth playing, and I can't wait to see what the next episodes have in store for us. I also am really excited for Ad Hoc Studios as a whole, and just to see what projects they make going forward. So yes, Dispatch is good, and if you can afford it, you should definitely go and play it, and if you can't, then just find someone to watch. It's almost as fun. Thanks for watching.